things in a very routine, mundane way. Young children want to do things very differently. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that, provided you try to understand them. You want them to understand you. Why not you as an adult, as a far experienced person should understand what the child wants, and that is important. It's like this today. You probably know this, okay? A lot of kids are hanging around with iPad and now the latest one, Samsung, and phone, and children carry handphone to school and all that until the school is saying, hey, no telephones are allowed to be brought into the school. Things are changing. Is the telephone given to the child as a control? You want to control them? You want to know where they are? That's not the idea, right? But the problem is we are very protective. We've become very protective, caged, and so much so, you are not allowing the child to develop on its own within a parameter. I mean, I'm not saying that let them come home at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm saying, hey, find a balance. What is the right way? But you must understand what the child, why is the child behaving that way? If the child doesn't want to talk to you, or is not conversing with you, or not communicating with you, something is wrong. We need to address that very quickly before you lose the child. I mean,
so we have to get into each other's world as much as the parents want to know what the children are getting into. I'm pretty sure that the child will want to know what the parents are getting into, so to make things, keep it cool and keep it fresh. Maybe certain days of the week the parents would actually take the children out and to their office and to actually know what are they dealing with.
Yes.
And same goes for the children. Probably the children could introduce their friends, whatever activities that they're working on, to their parents.
Absolutely. Najia, let me share this with you, okay? If you go to any European homes in the office, you will find the father or the mother will be very proud to display small paintings. Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I've seen it all the time. And they are very proud, and they'll take the time to explain to you, although it looks like a kindergarten thing, but they explain what the child has actually done, and they're very happy with it, okay? And then you begin, when you go home, some of these paintings or whatever is also at home, and they try to explain to you. Now, what does that indicate? Then the second thing I also notice, most Europeans, even though they may not have an office of their own, they have a desk to work with. They bring the kids to their office to show them where they are working and what they do. And this kind of interaction between home, work, and the child will always make the child develop to understand what the dad is doing or the mom is doing, what the child is doing. And also, parents are very much involved in the school work, where they go there, even on a weekday or a weekend, and to be a parent in charge. My own grandchildren who is studying in Thailand, in an international school, I can tell you, the parents have to go there and be a class teacher or something like that from time to time. In that way, you also find out what the child is doing, who their friends are, and what they are doing. And this kind of things is very good. We, unfortunately, don't do that. Okay, we have a parents-teachers association meeting or something like that, and nobody bothers to go. But that kind of interaction, to me, is very good. Parents must take the child to the workplace. The child must take the parents to their education place, and therefore we understand and know their friends. That's what I think should be done. So you begin to understand your child from young. How is the child developing? How is it? What is the interest is, and not push your interest to a child. That's what I think.
So get them involved.
Yes,
and you should get involved as well.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
At the end of the day, it will.
It's a two-way thing. Yeah, exactly. It's a two-way thing. I know about you. You know about me. So there will never be a gap in which I don't understand you or you don't understand me. Okay, and it's because this gap gets wider and wider. You lose one another. That's not so good.
We actually have plenty of questions about this topic, and we might not get to cover every single detail or questions today itself. But however, I'm going to read this question from our listener. She sent us an email. She said, Dr. Vanga, my name is Christabel, and I've been married for 15 years, and I have 2 lovely girls. And for the past few years, I've been spent, my husband husband and I have been working hard towards our kids' education fund, and because of that, spending time with the kids seem very, very difficult, and they're pretty, like in their own world. So they're both in their teens now, and we're finding it hard to bond with them. And of course, I know full well that when he or she is in their teens, there's a tendency for them to be a bit rebellious. So how do we make them understand why we do what we do?
Well, Christabel, I hope I pronounce it correctly. Let me share with you my own life. As a young person working out in those days, I have to work 5 days in a week. I'm never at home. I'm always either outside of the country or in the country somewhere else. And it's continued on for more than about 26 years before I finally retired. Okay. I spend only the weekend, maybe sometime only one day at home with my 2 sons that I have. Now, whether they understand what I have done for them is for them to know. I'm sure you have 2 girls, nice, good girls, I think. And, don't try to tell them or to spend time explaining to them that the reason why you did not spend enough time with them when you were working and at the same time trying to bring them up. Don't try to explain it. Just do, if you feel that you have done well and to the best of your own ability you have done, you have given them whatever you can, and that would be the best. Over time, they will definitely understand you. Don't push it. Leave it, and they will realize it one day. I mean, one of the problem is that children expect a lot from their parents. Not only financially, but also emotionally they expect that. But sometimes you can't give it, and sometimes you give it. What you give is always forgotten. What you have not given is what you'll remember. I saw a movie once before. An old man, a dying old man, told his son, or his son told the dad. The son was having a conversation with a friend and saying, "Look at my father. He's putting my child on his lap and playing with the child. He never put me on his lap when I was a child." And when the old man was approached and asked, he said, "Well, when he was young, I was working. I had no time to put him on my lap. But now I have the time to put my grandchild in my lap. So if he thinks that I'm not giving him the best, so be it." So that way I can explain that you do not go out there and try to convince your children that you have done, your best for the child. Leave it. I think over time they will realize it. They'll come back to you and realize that what you have done is the best. You've given them your best. And that in itself must satisfy you. That's what I think it should be. Okay.
So all Christabel and her husband can do is to perform their level best.
Yes.
And probably the sincerity, what actually can tell. And, I mean, when the 2 daughters grow up, I'm pretty sure they will realize the sacrifices that have been done.
Exactly.
To
When
actually get them to college
Exactly.
and all that.
When they get married and when they have children, they will finally realize, well, what my dad and mom did was very good. But they won't tell you. You will know it. And when you know it, you are blessed.
I think that's something that almost every parent would actually say at one point in their life to their kids, that you will never understand until you become a parent.
Yes.
It's like like most of us will actually get it at least once in our entire lifetime.
Yes, of course you will. You are so young, as you go up in life, Najia, you will also realize that, okay? but human beings are like that. We learn from our own mistakes. We will never ever learn from other people's mistakes and all that. But there is never a perfect way to say, I spent enough time with my children when I was working and bringing them up and spend you will never have that. Career becomes important, okay? And therefore, when you get back home, I think you must have the ability. Young people who are listening to this program must get this through their head, and that is, yes, when you go home and when you are with your children, don't be present, as I said, be there. not mentally thinking about all the work that you got to do. So children feel detached. Children can detect that you are not thinking about them, but you are thinking about work and other things. They can mentally read you, and that